Udyr at the highest level play is great, and he's picked it even over the Morgana that Pabu now is able to pick up.
Yeah, that's the thing, you know, some of the question marks have been in here for the Unicorns of Love tonight in terms of the pick ban, and, you know, giving a lot over to RNG in the last game. This time around, they're going to prioritize the Udyr over the Morgana, and that's a move that a lot of people will kind of, you know, shake their head and wonder, you know, what's going on with that one. But it just seems like Anonymous wants to go for this pick instead. Maybe he feels more comfortable on this one. We also do get the first pick Gnar on red side, that is, going over to BioPanther. So immediately, Boss will respond with the Jace.
And it would be pretty aggressive of Unicorns Love to take away Chaz's Ahri here this early on in the draft. Maybe even a shout out there with the hover. They will take away the Kai'Sa, which I think is a much stronger pick in this case. And Chaz responds. Chaz responds with the Kassadin hover. A lot of love being shown in this draft, but I do like the response. Oh, don't even think of it. I do like the response of the Jace to this high priority Gnar, and one of the reasons why, you know, in our region we see Gnar picked a lot later oftentimes is because there are a lot of great responses in this meta, Jace being one of them. And the Samira is locked in. Didn't think we'd be seeing a whole lot of her in this tournament, Valdez, with the nerfs that she's received. She did get buffed back up a little bit recently too, but it's a hard time to be Samira with the changes, you know, to her ultimate. It's hard to survive those team fights and actually get the bang for your buck that she's given, you know, around release. We saw early this year.
Yeah, for sure. I guess just with the pool that was left available, you know, the Varus and the Tristan already taken off the board, they just say, well, let's go ahead and throw the Samira in this time around, as the Kai'Sa, of course, taken here for Lodic in this game. As now we're going to go ahead and ban a bunch more supports. So the Braum and the Rel will be taken off the board here.
The Rel, one of the most common pairings, of course, for, you know, that bot pick Samira. You're going to have such great synergy with the Magnet Storm and the Inferno Trigger, and it's just really easy to set up for big value with those two heroes, or those two champions, rather, together in the bot side. And when you have an oppressive stun like that, she's just very powerful in general with a composition like this that does want a team fight, right? You have the Gnar, you're looking for those really powerful engage 5v5s. You don't want something like a Rel to be able to make that all the easier. And we'll see the Nautilus ban to follow.
Yeah. And it's pretty interesting because Decoy definitely known as a support that he loves to play engage supports, but a lot of them are already taken off the board, right? So what are we left with here? We have the Rakan, right? But we haven't really seen too much of him in this tournament for a pretty good reason. They're hovering the Swain, and now the Galio. I think the Galio actually might not be too bad of a choice, but actually there is the Rakan. So Decoy this time around gonna be hopping back on the Rakan. He was actually 3-0 in the LCO, so bringing out a pick that he hasn't lost on just yet.
That's a really strong pick for Decoy, but I do have concerns about how well it's going to be able to function around some of these objective fights, right? In our last game for Unicorns of Love, they didn't really get to play any of those objective fights on their terms because they were, of course, just so outclassed by RNG. But in this game, when you have vision control almost guaranteed with the Udyr, it's going to be hard to set up for big flanks, you know, with this pick. So I'm a little bit concerned about how much the Rakan is going to be able to get done around those objectives unless Pentanet GG have a pretty big advantage to start things off. Will be the Galio coming through here now. Against it, pretty solid disengage tool, and could be very good against the Gnar. Oh, I like that. It looks like Orianna going to round things out here for Nomen's.
Yeah, in the mid lane, just kind of, well, mostly ignored in terms of the bans here. We did have the Nocturne coming out pretty early, and there's the Victor. He was thinking about the Orianna, but switches it up last second to the Victor. Already a huge amount of burst damage on the side of UOL with Jace, Victor, and the Kai'Sa to be coming out there. So we'll see if Pentanet can kind of, you know, stave that off here in this game. I'm curious to see what they are going to finish off their draft with, and it's actually going to be the Lee Sin going into the mid lane, you'd have to imagine here for Chaz.
Definitely going to be in the mid lane here for Chaz, and It's a very aggressive pick, but the problem I see with this Lee Sin pick is if you want to play it aggressively, if you want to try to get advantages against this ranged Victor, you're going to have to put yourself in a very vulnerable position against Ananasic, who's going to be roaming around. He has a very easy gank setup here. Even with the Orianna, it might have been easier to get kills there, but with the Victor, if you do kind of flirt with danger with this Lee Sin pick, you might get punished. You might find yourself falling behind early, and that is absolutely not what you can do with a composition like this that needs to be powerful in the mid game. When you're running the Lee Sin, if you're running a more scaling mid laner, you could be okay with a little bit more passive play in the mid lane against something like an Udyr, but in this case, I think you really need to get that early edge. You need to fight with those power spikes for Samira early, and this is going to have to be Pentanet GG controlling that early game, but you have to be really respectful of Ananasic's Udyr here, and that's the big hole, I think, in their draft.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. As you mentioned, you know, it's not the safest kind of pick to come out here, as you see the eyes are given there through the sunglasses between the coaches. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can actually pilot it this time around with the Lee Sin into the mid lane. Love this meta, at least. The fact that we can get Lee Sins in the mid lane. I'm kind of sick of Victor versus Orianna every game. So to be honest, you know, regardless of how this does turn out, it should be pretty entertaining to see if Chaz can kind of hold his own there on a very volatile mid pick.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to say the least, and we'll see how he performs, because if it is a great performance and he gets an early lead, you end up getting a position where he can fight very early, can help control some of those lanes. Then you have the Samira pick that's going to explode when she hits level 6, and later on when she gets her Infernal Shield Bow online. Or Immortal Shield Bow, not Infernal. Depends on who you're talking about, I guess. That Infernal Shield Bow, she's always getting. So we'll see how their mid-game shakes up. Obviously, the Gnar is going to be great for late-game engages, but feels like there's a bit of an identity problem between the top part of this draft and the bottom.
Yeah, so coming in here, Unicorns of Love, of course, on the blue side. Pentanet GG still looking for their first win. The only win that the Unicorns of Love do have, of course, was over Pentanet. So seeing if they can, double that effect at least. And this group isn't over for these two teams, at least. We were seeing in the interview with Ming, of course, that RNG now 4-0 in a group with 3 teams. They're on to the next round, right? You have to get top 2 in your group to make it. So with that, they basically secure it. But for these two teams, anything can happen. If Pentanet GG come out here with a win, they're going to be tied up. And then it's really anybody's game for who's going to get that second slot in Group A.
Exactly. So that's, if you consider that RNG has already gone 4-0, the wins that you're going to get against your opponent here for either of these teams are so much more important. Great trade here for Boss. But yeah, these are the matches that are the ones you absolutely have to win. If you steal a win against RNG in your remaining games, more power to you, but tougher to do. As Jace ends up being obviously a very strong counter pick to the Gnar, can bully him in this early part of the game, as you're seeing here. It's a champion that's one of the reasons why a lot of teams will not prioritize Gnar this early in the draft, because it's just so easy to respond.
You and I, as LCK casters, we didn't see a lot of first pick Gnars. There were some teams that would do it when they were very confident in their top laner to play in certain matchups. But we have so many powerful carry top laners that can be a little bit risky in our region, at least. And you see that BioPanther tries to pull it out. Already Boss, obviously a great laner in his own right, is looking to put on the pressure, as he should in this matchup.
Yeah, Boss himself plays a lot of Gnar, so definitely understands the matchup very well, and might be part of the reason why they prioritized it early. Just want to guarantee that they'd have it themselves. But obviously, you pay the price, in terms of this early game matchup in the lane. And, in terms of clear speed in the jungle, very few can actually... Oh, Chaz.
He's looking for it. The early game trading from the Victor is not going to be easy for the Lee Sin to handle. Obviously, his second W can help him get a bit of that life back, as getting a bit of an invade now onto Pabu's level 3. They're going to have that blue reset as level 2 Kaisa comes in alongside of Santos on the Galio, and is able to get that reset off, at least, as the Morgana always loves to put these two camps together and just AoE them down. That will also, with this priority, allow Ananasic to come in here and pick up the Scuttle Crab very early on.
Forcing Decoy to dash away there, and not only get a ton of value out of this, just the Scuttle Crab. It could have been much worse for Pentanet GG. They handled it pretty well. And this is where I'm talking about where you don't want to be as Chaz. This is a great route, though, because otherwise you're in an insane danger zone, right? Like, Pabu has to be nearby. But if you're being aggressive like this against a Udyr, you can be punished very, very easily. So Pabu kind of has to babysit now for just a moment. And very well played.
Yeah. I like kind of the game that's being played right now. It looks like a 2v2. It looks silly, but actually what's going on, he's trying to push as fast as possible to secure the top scuttle, right? They want to make sure that Chaz has the prio with the push, with the help from the Morgana, so that the two of them can rotate over and secure the scuttle for Pabu and for the team. So they're able to do that. Obviously, Lee Sin, he's got some extra wave clear on the buff to his E, a couple of extra seconds on that one, and so they're able to push in that lane very fast and secure that for Pentanet.
You can see things have kind of started to swing the other way in terms of the pendulum that is this top lane as well. The prio there makes it a lot easier to guarantee that they're able to get that scuttle. So really nice macro play here from Pentanet GG. Ananasik here going to go steal away the chickens here, take some extra gold and remove that from the Morgana, and also kind of stay near Nomans here.
Okay, getting in there again. Yeah, he's in the gravity field, has to hop away. And that's the one thing about the Lee Sin is you almost always will have a way to get out of things as long as you have a minion wave coming in or a ward. And he is able to hop out and take a decent trade.
Yeah, it's scary, you know, the deficit in terms of the CS, though, that is starting to appear here. And Nomans has already teleported back in. Chaz has not actually based yet, so he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place right now in terms of making sure he's getting that money, but also getting the items he needs to stay alive in this lane and be valuable as a Lee Sin in the early game.
We're getting some action here. The taunt comes in. They're trying to burst down Decoy, and they will be able to, but here's the follow-up from PGG. They're looking for a kill now. They get an Anasik, and now Lodic pretty low. He's able to get zoned away, but Santa's actually able to flash over the wall and escape himself, so turns into a 1-for-1, but also able to steal a camp there on the side of the Udyr. Not so bad at the end of the day.
Yeah, not so bad indeed. And you can look at the level lead here as Nomans actually hitting 6 first. He's just been untouched here in this mid lane. And even though it's a 1-for-1 trade, it could have been much worse for Pentanet GG. I feel like the growing issue is going to be this Victor that ends up scaling up so well. Take a look at this new Axe Effect replay and how this all breaks down. Ananasik just barely gets taken out here by Paredes. Ends up being a 1-for-1. Meanwhile, the top side.
Oh, here we go. The Predator Morgana. This is what you're looking for. The damage tries to come out here from Boss, but at the end of the day, he will be forced to flash out of that fight. Nice little gank timing there from Pabu, but this does mean that immediately the Udyr, who's got at least his chickens cleared, will just run towards that Infernal Drake and look to take this down very early.
Yeah, there's just nothing that Pentanet GG can do about this at this stage. You know, right now, Paredes went back, so it's going to be a flash for a Drake, and the longer the game goes on, obviously the Drake is going to be more valuable. Meanwhile, Chaz making a big rotation over here. They're going to steal away this blue, and they are just abusing Boss now on the top side of the map. Flashless, there's not much he could do. He's just going to have to sit there for a moment and then back as soon as possible once that wave is cleared.
It's actually not half bad there for Pentanet. They're able to get that rotation in and steal a couple of the buffs. Now looking to get in there onto the Udyr. At least they're able to push him away. As you can see, Nomans is also looking for blood here. He wants a fight, but now with Biopanther looking to rotate on down, and Pabu's got his ultimate and flash available. He's going to go in for that one, and Nomans, there is no escape for him. Down he will go. He does not even use his flash. That is going to be just a straight-up kill going the way of the Lee Sin.
Very clean here from Pentanet GG, and this is starting to look like a game where they can really get firm control over things. Meanwhile, on the bot side.
Okay, able to get the blocker up there and deny any further damage. Paredes really getting a little bit spicy himself as well, down in the bottom side, trying to force a trade.
Yeah, he's got level 6 now, so those trades become a lot more scary on the side of Unicorns of Love. But, you know, something that we haven't really talked about too much, it's really come into play here, is how well Pabu has been able to stay around the mid lane, and some of those vulnerable moments where it feels like maybe Ananasik is actually going to get the upper hand just hasn't been the case, because Pabu has been here, right time, right place, every single moment where things look dicey. In this case, Biopanther is rotated all the way down. They're going to end up getting a kill, but Pentanet GG have used the fact that Pabu's got the spell shield to make Chaz virtually invincible in a lot of these exchanges. It's kind of a weird interaction you don't normally get with junglers. They have that extra shield, they have the ability to stop that CC, and the Udyr pick just doesn't feel as threatening as long as he's aware and is hovering in that mid lane, which he's been doing a great job of.
Yeah, the positioning of the flash as well, just to separate the two of them and force an Onisic to back away. I mean, he couldn't run in there, especially 2v3, so good vision control in the top river and a fantastic look and play there from Pabu. Actually looking to put the carry pants on this time around. The one thing, though, is that although an Onisic is down on farm, he got the Infernal Drake, he also got the Rift Herald, and now he's looking to put pressure up on the top side. Remember, they have a huge amount of damage here with the Jace, and they'll be looking for the kill first and foremost. Can they get BioPanther down? He will flash away, but the damage coming out here will just be too much. And a follow-up dive down in the bottom side. Melodic's got a lot of support there, but here comes Chaz as well. Gets the kick and gets the kill under the turret. 4-on-2, no escape for the Kai'Sa.
Very much a close call here for Pentanet GG. They want to get more. They're not done yet.
Yeah, Santa's is dead too. Not much they could do there. No follow-up kill as well. The one thing Unicorns love to get, at least, is the top lane turret.
They're going to get the turret, and they're going to try to maybe look for more here because they know there was a huge commitment, and it was so late. You know, that fight in the bottom side, that skirmish took so long. Sure, they get the kills, but they are going to get an extra charge here on this Rift Herald. A lot of extra pushing power. That turret gold on the bottom side of the map for the plates just isn't going to be the same amount of value here for Pentanet GG, but power to him for the attempt, right? You have to do something when your top laner is getting dove like that. They're able to trade back on the map.
Yeah, and immediately, just like this, I mean, we've got a pretty even game at this point in time, right? There's a lot of macro gold, a lot of objective gold over to the side of the Unicorns of Love, but some of the individual plays, the micro plays that have been made by Pentanet GG in this game, just picking up straight up kills and this fantastic dive in the bottom side as well, they're definitely holding their own this time around.
They certainly are. You can see how well this was handled too from Unicorns of Love. You see the punch come through. There's just only so much that Santas can do, and the mini waves are crashing. He's got nothing to rely on here, but he does buy a lot of time for that top push to get extra value. Meanwhile, in live,
yeah, it's kind of crazy that we're only 11 minutes into the game. I feel like, oh, wow, there's still plates available. Okay.
It's a very fast-paced early game between these two teams. And, you know, we are also seeing a lot of value out of this Morgana. You know, it feels like for the longest time, Udyr has had such a fast clear speed. He's the one who's the king of engages. He's always able to threaten lanes. He's always able to get that assist count really high. It's actually Pablo who's been right place, right time, like I said before, in these ganks. He's actually up 20 CS at the moment, has those 4 assists. He's 100% kill participation. He's the most valuable player in this game so far, and that Morgana pick is certainly looking strong.
Yeah, it's great to see him finally pop off in a game like this on a current meta jungler as well. Really cool to see how well practiced he is on this Morgana. A big grinder himself, always loves to talk about how much he's playing solo queue, and it's really paying off here as well, as the Morgana play has been stellar here in this game.
Teleport.
Yeah, they're looking for the play here on the Mountain Drake, and again, this is 5-on-5, but look at the Kai'Sa isolated down on the bottom side, and now Lodic's out of the fight. We'll see if he can try to join in here. The rest of UOL just in the river, trying to force the poke damage in, as the Dragon is going to reset and make things more difficult for PGG to just take this down. In goes Chaz, Pabu in the pit as well, and it looks like Unicorns just gonna let that one go. Pretty close there on the Seeker from the Kai'Sa, but not enough. And that will be the Mountain Drake going over to Pentanet.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, it's so important that they actually cut Lodic off. He wasn't able to fight that battle, right? And, you know, he's just kind of stuck under turret. It's a 5v4 fight you can't take as Unicorns of Love, unfortunately. They're going to try to get something done here in the mid lane as the Drake gets taken, but ends up being traded now. Chaz going to get a lot of extra gold on the bottom side of the map, but it feels like this is just a game of trades in terms of objectives. You know, every time there's a commitment somewhere, there's one player or multiple on the other side of the map, even potentially even in some of these exchanges where they're getting value elsewhere. And it feels like Pentanet GG are just trading up those slightly in terms of these kills. The problem is, does their comp scale as well into the late game? They have a really nice team fighting comp, but this Victor is going to become a problem the longer the game goes on. We talked about Noman's liking to play more aggressive champions, but this is one of the ones he's been playing a lot recently in this meta. It's his favorite control mage, and he's had a very stable game.
Yeah, looking very comfortable himself outside of the one time that all of Pentanet, it felt like, came into the mid lane and Just kind of messed things up for him. And Anasik has been relentless on the counter engage, or the the counter jungling essentially, right? He's getting and he's stealing as many camps away as possible from the Morgana, because as the Udyr, you have so much movement speed, you can kind of just dodge that first binding and just kind of get in the face of the Morgana and say, yeah, these camps are going to be mine. So he's been looking for a lot of those plays. He's still down 20 CS though.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's trying to find what he can in this game. I mean, what he doesn't, I mean, the Morgana clear time is so insanely fast. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. It feels like no one could really rival Udyr for a very long time, but the Morgana is definitely popping up as one of those big new jungle picks that's very high prio right now in MSI. Bit of a surprising one. I don't think anyone would have said that something like that would have happened early on in the year, but big changes, big patches across regions, across this year of international play, or rather play around the world. Sometimes you see a champion pop up in one region. In this case, this champion's popped up when we have all the regions in one place, and it's cool to see. And Pablo's doing great on it so far. He's made such a huge impact for Pennant at GG just with his game sense, being at the right place at the right time, and really helping Chaz out in this mid lane.
Yeah. Some interesting plays there from the Unicorns of Love bottom lane, actually putting on a bit of a soft freeze, a little one. They kept the 3 ranged minions alive, and they kept the wave on their side of the lane as, it didn't amount to anything. It didn't pull Pentanet close enough to get an engage going, but it was pretty cute to see at least. As now, Pentanet GG saying, well, you got the first Herald. Let's try to get the second one. We're feeling confident right now in our position in this game.
Boss, meanwhile, pushing bottom, so he is not here. He has teleport, but he's getting a lot of value the longer the skirmish goes on.
Yeah.
Gets a whole turret.
And there is the teleport coming in as the frontline Santa's a huge engage comes in from the Rakan, but nobody goes down here. The Rift Herald does go the way of Pentanet GG. And Anasik trying to get away, but a huge Gnar into the wall, gets the 2, and the follow-up from Santa's is not good enough. Praedith is going to live as well, picks up a double kill on his way out, and that is a big team fight win here for Pentanet GG.
Yeah, Noman's is just caught between a rock and a hard place there. Santos tries to go in and save the fight. He's desperate. He's trying to make anything happen he can. He wants to turn it. He has a huge opportunity when everybody's stacked up like that, but it is just too little too late. And it felt like Unicorns of Love just spreading themselves a little bit too thin, trying to start this Rift Herald while also having Boss push a turret. He teleports in here, but by the time he's here, the fight is practically over. Santa's down at 1/3 health. And you can see Nomads gets the pushback, but the rest of Unicorns of Left have gone to the left of this wall. There's just no way they can rejoin. The Gnar ult is pulled perfect, and there's just no way for this fight to be turned around. Santos tries his best, okay, to turn it, but it's not going to happen. And Sunglasses down now.
Yeah,
taking a closer look.
Speaking of guns, oh, there they are. We got both sets out tonight from the coach. Nice to see. And he's got to be really happy. And keep in mind that whole engage began with one small binding, right? Comes in, locks you down for what feels like an eternity, basically was, and Santos just has to flash away. Doesn't really get much value on that Galio. And now Anasik is kind of all alone here. He's going to get engaged on by the Rakan, and the ultimate will come in. The Inferno Trigger comes out, but he will survive. And so you don't get the kill, but at least they push him off the turret, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Chem Tank's still very good. He's still able to get out of there. Lives with a sliver of health, and unfortunately this kind of neuters the entire game plan of Pentanet GG. They grouped up looking for a pick and looking for that Rift Herald getting insane value. Doesn't happen. And in fact, it's actually Nomads who gets a lot of damage done on the top side of the map for free.
Yeah, at least they do get that Ocean Drake, so even if they don't get the kill, they push away the jungler and pick up the objective. As you mentioned, I feel like Noman's response was really great. He said, well, there's not much doing about that, Drake. I guess I'll just try to get some value elsewhere on the map, and he's just trying to get as farmed as possible. But you could see the enemy mid laner at this moment in time has a bounty. He's 3-0-3, and this Lee Sin is getting pretty scary in this game as well. Yeah, I mean, Lee Sin later on in the game is going to be very terrifying in terms of what he can do well, on a flank, or if he can isolate a target, right? Somebody gets bound or caught by Gnar, you know, Lee Sin can kick them away. You can get a burst kill almost instantly on basically anybody who is on this side of Unicorns of Love, right? Anybody who gets caught with that amount of CC.
But the scaling in terms of the damage that Nomads is going to have in the late game fights is pretty insane. We saw he was actually, I think, the #1 damage dealer in that last fight on the Herald. Imagine if he's given space to do that consistently. I mean, look at what damage he's doing right now. That's where you really need to be afraid as this game goes longer, is that scaling power, because you're not always going to get the perfect engage with the Gnar, right? You're not always going to have that fight where Unicorns of Love are split between a Rift Herald and a teleport coming in from boss. You're not always going to have those ideal situations. So this game gets harder and harder the longer it goes on for Pentanet.
Yeah, we'll see if they can use the carry power they've got in their pockets so far to make something happen as Chaz is trying to get in there and Boss just shuts him down. Just like that, picks up the extra gold and sits him down on the bench, says, you cannot kill me, I don't care how fed you are.
Yeah, that was definitely an exchange that you don't like to see if you're a fan of Chaz. You know, ends up looking like maybe he can just 100-0 there, but it's not going to happen. Boss trades it back. You could see Boss on camera there for just a moment, almost looked puzzled. The fact that that would happen, very calm and collected after he gets the kill. Pabu, nice route there. Should get him out of here. Not necessarily going to save his blue. He's going to need teammates for that.
He's got that Predator rolling, but he's not able to move in and get the smite down. Actually, it was on cooldown for another 2 seconds. So, again, this is kind of the never-ending onslaught right now from the UOL jungler, as now they're trying to actually just kill Pabu here. He doesn't even have a stopwatch, so he has to flash away from that one. And that is going to be another nice win there, at least for the mid and jungle duo from Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, I mean, getting a flash like that is actually pretty huge. We're going to watch this fight once again. Both level 12, they take the blast plant together, but you can see Boss just has way too much burst between the two forms. Yeah, just a miscalculation there from Chaz.
Yeah, I mean, you can see his items, and I would assume they were finished at that time of the fight. I mean, it's Eclipse and the Mana Moon. You're going to burst down anybody, and you take a look at the items of the Lee Sin, he's got no armor.
No armor.
It's basically a wet piece of toilet paper in that fight, and it kind of looked that way by the end of it. Even though he does a nice amount of damage himself, it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunately what the Eclipse is going to do for you in that situation. And I'm starting to be a little bit concerned about, you know, some of the tools that Pentanet GG are going to need to use to set up for potentially picks in this fight, right? Like, the longer the fight goes on, as long as Nomads is alive and able to do damage, as long as Boss is able to poke and chip away, it looks like the team fights should favor them unless there's a great engage, unless you see that binding, which is going to be harder to pull off now that Pabu doesn't have flash, unless you see that really great Gnar ult coming through or a wall up into the wall. There are ways where this goes well for Penta GG, but it's going to have to, a lot of it rely on vision control, and that's so difficult to make happen against the Udyr. He's actually down in vision score right now in this game by 10. Very rare to see a Udyr down on vision score, but Pabu has been, like I said, MVP. Still 100% involvement in kills here, 7 for 7.
It's pretty cool you mention it, because it's kind of like everything the Udyr is supposed to be good at. You know, vision control, farming, clearing out the jungle. He's losing a lot of those aspects here in this game, so I suppose at least he's taking enemy camps, but that's not quite enough to catch up here. But still, Unicorns of Love enjoying a bit of a lead. Obviously, some of that macro gold they got very early on and some of the extra turrets that they do have in this game are helping them out. I feel like their CS scores are much better as well when you do take a look at them down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So they have been able to shore up a lot of that gold.
Pabu going to eat a huge amount of damage here. He does have a stopwatch now, which is actually huge for how he can engage with his ultimate. Obviously looking for bindings too, in a little bit more vulnerable locations without a flash. I think it's a huge pickup for him.
Okay, trying to get on top of Biopanther here, but you can see he's trying to go Mega Gnar, but can he make it? No, he can't. He gets lasered down, but a massive ultimate does come out here from Predator, but it doesn't look like it's enough damage. Trying to get on top of the Udyr. They do get the double kill, and that's going to be the triple, actually. Ends up being enough damage at the end of the fight, and that's going to mean they're going for the Baron.
Yep, might not be able to get the big Gnar engage you're looking for, but your composition certainly has that burst where it counts. And this is a 7-0-2 now. Predator, who actually has his Immortal Shield, has got his Collector. You have the ability to get those executions in the team fight. This is what Samira is great at. This is the type of team fight that Samira is always looking for. It's the dream for a Samira. You don't always see those, you know, in the later parts of our 11 patches right now in Professional League of Legends, but every now and then you have the perfect fight. You know, BioPanther here, unfortunately, trying to get his bar is unsuccessful, but watch Preda in this fight. He's untouched, completely unaffected, is able to just, for free, press his ultimate button, and then he's able to clean up house. I mean, nobody's on him until it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, a fed Samira who has a hard engaged support, who, by the way, the decoy got the 2 guys in the front and just locked them up for way too long. They were not able to lock down the Samira, of course, because of the Black Shield as well. So, you know, the Morgana from the jungle farms really well. It's able to provide some really great ganks early on with the Predator especially, but also can just keep your AD carry safe for any carry that you want to. And it's pretty insane what this champion does offer right now to League of Legends.
Still 10 for 10, Babu, in this game. This is looking, I mean, it's looking more and more doable by the look of things for PGG at every moment. You know, I didn't trust that this composition would be able to fight correctly in some of these straight up 5v5s.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into our Red Bull power play here, Red Bull Baron power play, that is to say. Let's see what they can get done, because Pablo has been so good at setting up these bindings, forcing Unicorns of Love to react, sometimes forcing out summoner spells. And here he is again, you know, with relative impunity, tossing out these bindings. You get one of those, you get a pick, and then suddenly the whole game's opened up when you have this Baron.
Yeah, I love how Penta and GG come into this fight, and they're down 0-3, but it doesn't matter. They're playing so confidently, and I love how well they've been able to transition from the early to mid game. They're making use of this mid game power spike, as you mentioned, and 7-0-2 Samira, Priyat is having a crazy pop-off game right now. This is the competition we wanted from Group A, and we are getting it out of them, as the ultimate does come out onto an Onasik, but they're very deep into the jungle, and Boss, kind of the boss of his team right now, is going to escort them out of the jungle.
Yeah, it looks a little bit awkward there. Pabu saw an opportunity to try to ult, but unfortunately BioPanther and Chaz are not here. You're not going to want to take that fight there, isolated as 3. So he flashes. Again, you know, last time he used his flash, I thought, okay, well, it's going to limit his options, but he's still been where he needs to be at every single time. So he's becoming a lot more survivable with this build that he's going for. He's going to have his Zonias eventually, which is going to be really strong, obviously, for some of the engages. And it feels like with this player, he's got such a good sense of where to be and when the fight is going to happen and where he can set up for these bindings. He's always on the cusp of getting caught, getting picked, but he's tossing the bindings out, gets away safe. In this case, even flashes away. And yeah, it was a misplay, and he does lose his flash, but that kind of proactive play is maybe going to win you this game if you're Penta at GG, 10 for 10. On the assists, and this Baron fades away. Unicorns of Love grouping up.
Yeah, just trying to clear out some of the vision that has been put down in their jungle at this point. This game very much even, although we do have this crazy fed Samira. You've been saying it all game. I mean, the Victor's kind of getting out of control as well for No Man's. Even though he doesn't have the kills to really back it up, he is extremely well farmed. And if Unicorns of Love get a fight on their terms, maybe blow up the Samira, they can absolutely take a fight here. Both teams have 2 dragons, right?
Yeah.
I feel like really anything can happen at this point in time, and it'll be interesting to see who is going to run away with this one.
It's as close as you can ask for, right? I mean, we're really on a knife's edge. And this next Drake fight might really be what shoves one of these teams off the edge. Because, again, the sustained damage, the poke for Unicorns of Love is fantastic, but the engage tools and the burst damage that the Samira shouldn't be able to have, right? It's very rare to see this. A 7-0-2 Samira does mean the Penta that GG, if they get the fight on their terms, can set up for that CC or get that Gnar ult in, really do have some burst potential. So, I mean, this is really anyone's game to take. These are the close games we've been waiting for. We haven't always gotten in the group stage of MSI, but we're getting there right now.
Well, that's a nice start for the Unicorns of Love. Obviously, there is some amount of sustain here for the Samira, but if you're going to win a fight, it's probably going to come off the back of some big poke damage first, and then you get the engage going. As they find No Man's on the bottom side, the Galio ultimate is going to help out quite a lot, but down will go the Victor, and just like that, one of the most fed members on the side of Unicorns of Love goes down without much of a fight, and that will be the Dragon going over to Pentanet, you would have to imagine.
Yeah, you cannot fight without your Victor. I mean, he is going to be the major source of damage. He's who Pentanet GG target down and eliminate early on, I mean, how Victor is played at the highest level, you're often walking a tightrope because you want to maximize your damage, but you have to position yourself for maximum safety too. And he ends up getting caught and picked, and that's the end of team fight potential here for Unicorns of Love. Meanwhile, you can see Pablo is just taking this by himself. They're not just going to get a Drake, they're going to get a turret too, they're going to get mid-control.
Yeah, it's really great to see, and I mean, you look at the battlefield that was just fought there. There's only vision for Pentanet. There's nothing for the side of Unicorns. So as you mentioned, you kind of got to be careful when you are running through some of that vision where you're not sure if the enemy does have that vision. No Man's immediately going to teleport to the top lane.
Yeah, they want to push this hard. They're all grouped up, and they know that this is a timing where Pentanet want to back and reset. So it actually ends up working out really nicely. Potentially it could if they are able to push this further, but Pentanet do respond here. And, you know, for Unicorns of Love, you're in a really tough spot because now Pentanet GG have the soul point, so they can obviously get the next Drake to finish the soul. You have to take that fight. You can't let that go anymore. They have map control very strongly. Look at the wards across the map right now. And, you know, you're in a situation where you're constantly getting picked. Players are getting caught, and, you know, stuff like this is very risky given the circumstances. You end up getting caught here as No Man's, and that might actually cost you the game. So you have to play passively. And Pentanet GG are very much happy to sit back and wait for that next objective. Might just be the Baron fight we're looking at here for them. If they take that swimmingly, it might just be the game.
And the Baron comes up here, and I thought maybe Unicorns would have done something crazy and run at it, but not going to go for that just yet. Just going to sit here in the mid lane, potentially look for some picks. And you look at the tools that they have in their toolkit here, the champions that they did bring into this fight. I mean, you think about the Galio, and it's like, yeah, I mean, he's got some potential for engage, the Udyr as well, but it's a couple of champions that just need to run straight at you and kind of make it happen unless you get a crazy Galio play from out of vision. But as you mentioned, they don't really have vision control right now. Udyr's not just going to run at you and get an engage going. So it does feel like the ball is in Pentanet GG's court, and they're doing a great job with it. It's really, really nice to see them play from ahead because we haven't really got to see that too much so far here in this MSI, and I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I think it was, oh, hold that thought, Biopanther out in the middle of nowhere.
Trying to make this engage. They're really trying to force that engage. They are going to get the flash out of Boss, but that is just about it.
It's the fight you want.
Yeah, okay, trying to get the flash down now. Again, this is how they have to engage, but the sun does come down onto the Gnar. And now Pabu trying to make the play in that backline. They take down Boss, and Praedit is just so massive. Does crazy amount of damage in that backline. And there is no way for anybody on the side of Unicorns of Love to take him down.
What a tough day of League of Legends for Unicorns of Love. I mean, they saw blood in the water. They saw an opportunity. They went for it. And it was a really nice stopwatch there from Pablo. He goes golden. He survives. The damage output for Praedit is just too much at this stage of the game. And it looks like Unicorns of Love are going to go 0-2 on the day here. And this group just got a whole lot more interesting. They're both going to be tied up 1-3. And Valdez, this is our closest game so far here of the night. I'm hoping for more. But what a fantastic performance from Pabu in the jungle. 15 for 15 on the kills there, 100% involvement. And this was the kind of game you're looking for if you're an LCO fan.
Really great to see that they finally kind of turned things around. And you should be extremely happy if you are a Pentanet GG fan. I thought that, although some moments in the early game were a little bit shaky, they were able to really solidify there in that mid game. As you were pointing out, Wolf,